Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So welcome to another episode of Christian Apologetics. And today I wanted to bring to you a topic that I hope is going to be once again helpful, and you're going to be able to engage whenever you're having discussions or just talking to your colleagues, to your friends, families about these issues. And that is the topic of relativism and why, in my opinion, relativism just fails in, first of all, being consistent with how we view reality and how we come to know reality, especially is internally contradictory. So is inherently contradictory because it asserts, so it claims something about reality that contradicts the principles that have to be present, that have to be true in order for that particular assertion to be even considered consistent or true, right? So in a sense, it's like I'm saying I do not exist. Like what I'm saying I do not exist is contradicting the fact that I'm the one saying it. So in order for this claim to be true, so I don't exist, I have to exist. So you can see the problem. The fact is that it's inherently contradictory because in order for this claim to be true, then the set of principles or assumptions should be true as well. But if they're true, then your claim is false. So that's why it's self-defeating. And hopefully today I will be able to show you the different ways in which you can see, which can point out to people that might be holding this worldview, this belief, how you can point out these issues. And hopefully you can make them think about. Because you see many people, even Christians, they hold up to worldviews, they have beliefs, but they don't really know how to defend them. They haven't really thought through their beliefs or what are the logical implications or consequences if their beliefs are true. And therefore, they're just asserting something without really understanding what it means, right? And so hopefully today I can show you this, the failure of relativism, why relativism is just self-contradictory, and it's like it's cutting the branch on which it's sitting on. So it's like self-defeating. And now this is a very cool image. It says here, relativism is a philosophical theory that is simple in foundation but broad in application. There are two main points being raised here. The first one says that all opinions, beliefs, religions, and moralities are equally good, and that's called moral relativism. Again, these are equally valid, equally true, right? These are all synonyms. And then the second one says that all beliefs, true statements, worldviews, and theories are equally true or equally valid. And this is called cognitive or epistemic relativism. And now the second part is more related to truth and to knowledge. So how we come to know the world in which it is. So that's epistemology, right? So how we know things, how we know reality. And the first instead is specifically a bit more about morality. So this is a set of values, principles, moral judgments, moral truths. And once again, it says that they are relative. Now, what does it mean to be relative? I have here different links that I'm going to put in the description below so you can check them out a bit more deeply. Here is the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Once again, here, both on relativism, moral relativism, and here I have the Encyclopedia of Philosophy on cognitive relativism. And you can check more in detail the different views, different definitions, right? How the definition has like changed over time and how different philosophers have tackled it, the pros, the cons. And what I'm going to try to show you today is that at the fundamental level, the relativist position is a position in which they're claiming an absolute truth about reality, but the claim that they're doing is itself self-defeating. So in the sense of, if I say, for example, that truth is relative, right? This is actually an objective claim about reality. So I'm saying that truth is relative. So all truth statements, as it says here, are relative. So are dependent on things like culture, things like time frame, things like individuals, group of peoples, societies, and so forth. So it's dependent on something, is relative, is limited only to a certain frame. We can't expand it to be universally, to be objective about reality. It's just always relative to certain context. So if I say that every truth statement is relative to a certain culture, but I'm presupposing that my statement that truth is relative is itself not relative. It's an absolute, it's an objective, it's a universal truth claim. So you can see the problem is self-defeating because I'm saying that truth is relative, but the same way, the truth claim that I'm making when I say truth is relative should be objective, or I'm classifying it as objectively true, as an objective truth statement about reality. And once again, therefore, you can see how if what I'm saying is true, so if truth is relative and that's actually true, then that means that the statement truth is relative is also relative to the context, to the culture, whatever. So it can be true, but it can be also false. So there can be another culture that arises that says that truth is objective. And that particular culture is very well supported and endorsed by the statement of truth is relative. Because if it's relative, then that means that there can be another culture that affirms that truth instead is objective. But you can see here the problem. If there is a culture that affirms that truth is objective, and another culture that affirms that truth is relative, right? These are opposite claims. These are contradictory claims. So they can't both be true at the same time. Either one is true and the other is false, or both are false. But they can't be true. So when it says here that all beliefs, truth statements, worldviews, and theories are equally true or equally valid, is actually saying nonsense. Is actually, this is false because of the fact that, once again, it's self-defeating. But not only that, even if we assume that it is true, and there is a culture that affirms that truth is objective, which is the opposite, which is the contrast, definition, depending to truth is relative, then these two statements can't both be true at the same time in the same sense. And this is the issue, because if a culture says that truth is objective, is not saying that it's objective only to that culture. He's saying the truth is objective for all cultures, even to the cultures that say that truth is relative instead. So you can see the problem. Can't these two statements about reality, they can't be both true at the same time. They can't be equal. They can't exist at the same time. Either one is true and the other is false, or both are false. That's it. And this is the intrinsic problem and issue of relativism. The fact that it affirms something that, first of all, it's excluded in the statement. So when I say truth is relative, I'm assuming that the statement truth is relative instead is objective, is universal, applies everywhere, to all people, to all cultures across time. And so it's objective, right? And that's, of course, self-defeating. And in the same way, even if we assume that it is true, then it gets to a contradiction in which a culture that has the opposite view can't coexist. So these claims can't be both true at the same time. And now the same happens with morality or moral relativism. I don't know if I've heard many times as a Christian, when I'm engaging with someone, I've heard this phrase, don't try to impose your morality on me, because I'm not trying to impose my morality on you. But are you really? So whenever you are disagreeing with someone, you are saying that in this particular view, I am right, you are wrong. That's what you're saying. Otherwise, there would be no disagreement, right? So whenever you disagree with someone, you're saying that on this issue, whatever you're claiming, whatever you're saying, that's not true. No. Instead, what I'm saying, what I believe, that's true. So I'm right, you're wrong. That's the fundamental way in which we talk, in which we discuss with human beings. So you can see here the problem, though, that the person that is saying that, oh, don't impose your morality on me, so saying that if I'm trying to share or to say that Christianity is true, and they're feeling that I'm imposing my view on them, but they're also doing the same to me when they say to me that I shouldn't do that. You can see here the issue. So they're saying that I shouldn't impose my morality on others, while they are imposing their morality on me. So they are violating what they're claiming that I'm doing. So they're doing what they're claiming that I shouldn't be doing. And that's, of course, a fallacy. That's not how it works. So, like, if you don't want me to impose my morality on me, then you shouldn't impose also your morality or your view as correct over me. So everyone that thinks in a certain way thinks that they are correct thinks that they're right. Otherwise, they wouldn't be disagreeing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be saying anything. So again, this in itself is self-contradictory, because you don't want to do something, you want the other person not to do the thing that you instead are doing to them. So again, it's a double standard. It's just a fallacy, and it just falls on itself, right? And or how many times have you heard about the topic, the issue? Well, all religions are true. So all religions are equally true, are equally, they can all get you to heaven, or they can all get you to God. And the reason one religion that is superior, that is better, that is true, and the others are false, this is very, very arrogant to say. This is something that no, you have to be tolerant, you have to be open-minded, and so forth. Now, once again, here is the same. If we go back to this image, if it's true that all opinions, beliefs, and religions are equally good, equally true, equally valid, then that means that they can all be true at the same time, right? That they all are true at the same time, because they're relative, because the fact that they're true depends on a certain context, a certain culture. But what happens if a religion explains or teaches something that is contradictory or is opposite to what another religion teaches? For example, let's take a look at, Judaism and Christianity. Christianity affirms that Jesus is the Messiah, is the Son of God, is God himself that became a human being, dwelt among us, died, and then rose again from the dead. That Jesus was God, was human, was God at the same time. This is what Christian believes. Instead, Jews believe that Jesus was only a prophet, that Jesus was not the Messiah, that God himself incarnated, becoming a human being. So you can see here the issue, that if it's true that all religions are true, that means that Christianity and Judaism are both true, equally true. But if they're equally true, then it would mean that Jesus is both the Messiah and is both non-Messiah. Like, Jesus is both the Messiah and not the Messiah at the same time. But that can't be, right? And again, religions make assertions that sometimes are about the same nature, for example, of morality or of ethics. And again, they are claiming something opposite, something that can't be both true at the same time, for the same problem that we saw before. Because if it's actually true, then these two things can't be both true at the same time, because one is the opposite of the other. So they can't be true in the same sense at the same time. Either one is true and the other is false, or both are false. But they can't be all true at the same time. And this is the issue also with religions. Religions, yes, they might be teaching some similarities, but at the core, religions are vastly different. And they actually make opposing and contradictory claims between themselves. So they can't be true at the same time. It's a logical impossibility, because they are affirming contradictory claims. They have contradictory views about reality, contradictory views about morality or about Jesus. And so they can't be true at the same time. And this is, again, the problem of saying, or this issue of saying, well, but all religions are true. There isn't one religion that is true than the other. No, either all religions are false, or there is one that is true and the others are false, whenever they disagree with the religion, right? And so that's the issue. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is a bit more about morality, so about good and evil, right and wrong. Because once again, if you say that the concept of right and wrong, good and evil, are relative, so that means that they depend on a certain context, culture, society, set of people, individuals, then again, a certain set of morals could be true or could be good for a certain culture, but it could be exactly the opposite for another culture. So, for example, let's take a look at murder. For our Western culture, murder is something that is morally wrong, is morally non-acceptable, right? Well, but if moral relativism is true, then we can imagine that there is a culture instead where murder is right. It's good. It's considered something that is good because it's relative, right? There could be a culture that has this moral framework. And now the issue is that a moral relativist cannot say in any way that, well, no, you see, it's not possible that there is a culture that has murder to be considered a morally good or morally acceptable behavior, because if you're doing that, then you're actually appealing to a standard of goodness and evil that are not anymore relative, but that are objective, that are universal, that all human beings should know and should have. And you are appealing to that objective standard to then judge and to then say, well, no, but that culture, so the sacrificing children to a god, is actually morally wrong. It's always morally wrong. There can't be any proper justification to do that. And again, this is something that the moral relativist can't do, because they're starting from a position in which, and again, I'm going to show you, all moralities, moral values, moral judgments, moral obligations are equally good, are equally true, are equally valid. So you can't say that your morality is better than the other, or that something that you consider to be good is also good to every culture, or something you consider evil is also evil for every culture. You can't say that, because that would be appealing to an objective, universal standard of good and evil, right and wrong, which in a moral relativist system does not exist. And again, another problem that the moral relativist has is to actually prove how anything can be classified as good or evil. They can't, because again, because it's relative to the culture, then something good could be defined in a certain way in a culture, but could be defined in a completely different way in another culture. And the moral relativist has no way to discern or to say, well, certain moralities or certain cultures are have these moral values in a sense, or have this standard of goodness that it's actually better, or that are actually more social acceptable, or that are prompting more to social flourishing, to the well-being of the population than others, because again, that would be appealing to an objective standard of right and wrong, good and evil, which that does not exist in their own worldview. And so again, we can't really say that anything is objectively good or objectively evil. It just depends. That's actually the correct answer would be, well, it depends. So even the atrocities that the Nazis or that all the church or all the people did in the history, well, we cannot really condemn them as atrocities. We cannot really say that that was morally wrong. It's morally wrong for our culture and our system, but for that culture, for that system, for that time, well, maybe it was accepted. And so we can't say that it's morally wrong. We can't say this objectively wrong. And again, I think that this contradicts, or that this goes against the common sense. The fact that we know that there are certain things that are evil, that are good, that are objective. So they apply always. It's always the case. It's something that universally is accepted and all human beings should have. Yes, there can be differences in how they are applied or in how far there are. For example, I'm going to make you an example from the book Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis says, take an example, the amount of wives you can have. There are certain cultures that say, well, the marriage should be only between one man and one woman. Other cultures say, well, the man can have multiple wives, or the woman can have multiple husbands. But what is the moral principle, the universal, objective moral principle that every single culture has? Is that a man or a woman cannot have as many wives as they would like, or that a woman cannot have as many husbands as she would like. That you can't have that. That's something that is morally non-acceptable in every culture. There may be differences in how many wives or how many husbands you might have, but the moral, basic, objective moral idea is that you cannot have all the people that you want. That's the moral, the absolute, like the objective moral value that we find in every single culture, even though there might be some differences in the amounts of wives or husbands that you might have. And again, I think this explains and this helps you to realize that despite the differences in morality across different cultures, there are certain set of values and obligations that are shared across all cultures through all time. There are certain things that are just a foundation, even though there might be some differences on the out or the external, but fundamental level, they're always the same. And as Christians, we know why this is the case. We know because we are created in the image of God. God is a moral creature, therefore we know right and wrong. We innately have this concept of right and wrong. And even though we might have different opinions or different sets of standards as to how much right is and how much wrong is, but we know that there are certain things that are just too much and they can't be morally accepted. And that's something that we see all across cultures and religions. So that's it. I hope that I was able to share with you something that was useful for you to engage in these conversations. And again, maybe you were was also helpful for you to think about more about these topics. And let me know in the comments what you guys think. And hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching and see ya. Bye bye.